Do you guys like steak? I like my steak. I'm gonna show you how to cook steak perfectly. There's gonna be a few different ways to do it, but I'm gonna show you a reverse sear, a sous vide, and a pan sear. These are the 3 key ways you can cook steaks. And if you know these tips, you're gonna be able to do it well every single time. So as you can see here, I've got a range of steaks. I'm gonna be using them for different things. So I've got a thick cut ribeye, I've got a thick cut sirloin steak, and I've got some bavette steaks. These are a lot thinner. So the bavette steaks are gonna be the pan fried ones. The sirloin steak, because there's less marbling of fat in this one, we're gonna do this as the sous vide. Sous vide is really good if you wanna make something tender when it doesn't have much fat in it. And then for the ribeye, we're gonna reverse sear. This is putting it in the oven and then pan frying it later. These are very basic steaks. I got them from an everyday supermarket. You don't need to go out to butchers to get really beautiful steaks. You can cook supermarket steaks really well, and if you do that, they will taste delicious. So first things first, we need to make sure all of these steaks are ready to cook. So the key thing here for any steak is seasoning it well. I'm gonna take out this sirloin because we're sous videing this. We're gonna do something slightly different. So I'm gonna set this aside onto a plate. And then we're going to season the ribeye and the 2 bavette steaks as well. Really simple here. Don't add spices and all of that whatnot to steaks. You're tasting the meat, you want to keep it simple with a bit of salt. First, we're gonna get some paper towel and pat them fully dry. So this is just to remove any excess moisture. I'm gonna season this really generously with salt. We will be patting it off later. A lot of it will absorb in, but a lot of it will come off again later. So don't worry about over salting it here. Okay, so the steaks are seasoned. I'm now gonna put them in the fridge. Now, if you have the time, ideally put these in the fridge overnight. Now for the sous vide steak, you need a vacuum sealer. You can get these for about 20, 30 quid on Amazon. Lift it up, get your bag, twist down the sides, because this just helps with folding it up later. A little tip. Get your steak, and we're gonna slide it in there. A little bit of salt, a tiny drizzle of oil, a few sprigs of fresh thyme, a few sprigs of rosemary. Fold it up. Give it a little mix around. Gonna put it in the vacuum sealer. There's a little bit of oil in here, but I'd call this a dry vac. So you're just gonna click dry, power on, then click dry. And watch that. And there you have a vacuum sealed steak. The next piece of kit we will need, again, this is just one of 3 ways of cooking the steak, so you don't need to get this. This is not how you cook a steak every time. But if you want to invest in this, you can poach chicken breasts to make them really tasty. You can do so many different things. And if you're into your cooking as a home cook, I would highly recommend it. Again, you can get these fairly cheap, about 30, 40 quid online. I'll link a vacuum machine and I'll link this down below. So this is an Anova sous vide. With it, you can do this in a saucepan, but I've just got a big container full of water so you can see inside it. And I'm just gonna drop my bagged up steak into it. And then we're gonna screw on the sous vide, and then we're gonna set the temperature. So in this whole video, I'm gonna show you how to cook a steak medium rare. I think that is the most popular way of having a steak. So internal temperature for medium rare usually is 54 degrees Celsius or 130 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm gonna set my sous vide machine here to 54 degrees Celsius or 130 degrees Fahrenheit. You can sous vide them for 30 to 40 minutes, up to 3 or 4 hours. The longer you leave it in, basically, the butterier and more tender it will be. If you sous vide it for way too long, like 24 hours, it will turn into mush. So don't do that. So I'm gonna set a timer on here. We're going to 2.5 hours, then boom, click go. But the way this works is it circulates water at an exact temperature. And effectively, if you're cooking the meat to medium rare temperature over an extended period of time, you're cooking it long enough to kill any of the bacteria, any of the bad, harmful things in there, but you're also tenderizing it. So this is really a good way. If you're batch cooking, this is such a good way to do things. Now, right, we've got all the steaks prepped. We're not gonna cook them yet, because we've got to sous vide for a couple of hours and we're going to leave them to dry brine for a few hours. So whilst we're doing that, I'm going to show you my favorite sauces to have for steak fruit. Chimichurri is our first sauce. This is really easy to do. Traditionally, you would hand chop these all, but I'm going to do a little cheat version here. I'm going to chuck them all into a little food processor and blitz them all up and then add in the oil in a second. Add in some parsley. Make sure your blender is turned off so you don't get your hand cut. Some garlic cloves. I'm just going to use 1 because these are huge. I'm just gonna add half a red chili and then a splash of vinegar. Traditionally, you usually use red wine vinegar, but I'm just using some apple cider vinegar. And then a little pinch of salt. If we add the olive oil in now, it will emulsify into this like weird like sauce, more like a salsa verde, which is not what we're going for. So this is just to chop all the ingredients. Cool, and just like that, we've chopped up all our ingredients. Get yourself a bowl and add all of the chopped ingredients into it. Into this bowl, we're gonna stream in some olive oil, mix it in, and there you have the first sauce, a chimichurri. It's easy as that. Give it a taste, test it for acidity, add some more vinegar, test it for salt, add a bit more salt. I'm gonna add a little bit more oregano because why not? And you're good to go. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so for the next sauce, we're doing a peppercorn sauce. This is a lot of people's favorite. It's one of my favorites. It's creamy, it's rich, it's peppery. So first things first, we need peppercorns. Okay, so I've got a mixed batch of peppercorns like this. As you can see, I've got some white, pink, black, green peppercorns, all kinds. The first thing we need to do is give them a slight crush. I've got a pestle and mortar. This is a molcajete, a Mexican one. Just gonna crush them up so they're kind of half crushed. Once you've crushed them, they should be like that, coarsely crushed. Okay, and then tip them into a dry pan. Turn the heat to medium, but we're just gonna toast these for a few minutes until they're a little bit fragrant, and you will notice that they'll start to really, really smell peppery. But yeah, don't want it too crazy hot, otherwise it won't work. And whilst you're waiting for this, get the next ingredient ready, brandy. This is optional, but it takes peppercorn sauce to that next level. And we're using about 50 to 80 mils of this, so it's quite a big splash we're gonna use. Safety goggles, tie your hair back, make sure there's nothing above you, because we're gonna flambe it.
Does that mean fire?
It means fire. And then just let that flambe. And basically this is burning off all the alcohol, so you're just gonna get the flavor of the brandy. And once it's reduced, we're then gonna add in the next ingredients. I'm gonna add in my stock, and then a generous amount of cream. Season it with some salt, mix in the cream. This one can be done after you've cooked your steak. So whilst you're resting your steak, use the juices in the pan and add the peppercorns into that. That is a really, really lovely way of doing it. And it will honestly take, what, 3 or 4 minutes? Just gently bubbling this, not too aggressive of a simmer, and then it will be reduced and ready to serve. Our peppercorn sauce is made, and look how delicious that looks. There's a reason this is my favorite. For the next sauce, this is kind of like a hybrid one that I make myself. This is kind of a mishmash one I did one day and I really liked, and it just works really well. We're not using wine, it's not a reduced wine sauce. You can do that. There's loads of recipes out there for that, and that's delicious. Let's call it the mishmash stock sauce. First things first, we're gonna get a pan. Get this up to a nice heat. So I'm just gonna chop up one onion, take off the skin, cut this into chunks. It doesn't need to be that small because we're gonna strain it anyway. Get some olive oil, extra virgin, and a little dash in the pan. Then go in with the onion. We've then got a carrot here. Just cut it into chunks. The whole point of this is we're getting the sweetness from the carrots, a slight sweet meatiness from the onion, and it's all to impart flavour into this stock that we're going to be making. So the idea behind this is we want to get some colour on the veggies so they start caramelising and releasing all that umami-ness. To go alongside this, we're going to have some herbs. So I've got some thyme, a big sprig like that, and we're just going to chuck it in whole. Get some garlic, take off the skin, and chuck that in as well. As you can see here, it's starting to get a nice bit of colour on all the veggies. After a few more minutes, the next bit of umami-ness we're going to be doing is tomato paste, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and we want to keep the heat fairly high to keep that char coming, because the more caramelisation and maillard we can get, the more flavour we're going to get into our sauce. Okay, so we've got nice char. I'm going to turn the heat down for a bit so it doesn't burn, and then we're going to add in our beef stock. Now I'm just using one I've got from the shops. This is a nice brand, and we're simply gonna pour it over these veggies. Okay, I'm gonna add in a little splash of Worcester sauce as well. Mix that in, bring this to a simmer, then cover it and cook it over a low heat until it's reduced for maybe 30 to 40 minutes. And the idea behind this is it's gonna be really, really condensed flavors. So there might not be much sauce at the end of this, but it will taste great. It's gonna really break down. It's gonna get all the umami from the veggies and the tomato paste. It's just another nice one to add to your arsenal of sauces. So after about an hour of cooking, we have the sauce and it's really reduced down. So we're gonna strain this to get rid of all the solids. Get yourself a bowl and a sieve and simply strain it. You're then gonna get a new pan. You're gonna go in with a ladle full of the sauce. My next tip here is some beef stock cubes. So I'm using the gelatinous stock. I'm not using a dried one. You don't want to use the dried ones because they kind of don't really work for this. And add just probably half a teaspoon of it. A few knobs of cold butter, and then just going to whisk it in. And then after a few minutes, it will be really nice and glossy. So that is sauce number 3. A really quick and easy stock sauce. It's a cheats version of a demi-glace sauce, and it goes really well with some steak. Now all the sauce is made, I'm gonna show you how to cook the fries. Now you can do this whilst cooking the steak, so don't take this as is, because obviously I'm not gonna cook the fries ages in advance of the steak, but I'm gonna show you 2 different ways. I've shown you in other videos how to make perfect chips at home. Look at this video, for example, where I did the bratwurst, but I'm gonna show you how to do shoestring fries from scratch. So first thing, you need to get yourself 2 big potatoes, a mandolin and a peeler. I'm just gonna peel these potatoes first. Okay, scrape out any bad bits. That's what that little thing on a peeler's for. Before we mandolin them, just get a big bowl of cold water ready. Once you've got your bowl of water, get your mandolin. Here I'm using an OXO mandolin. I think this is one of the best mandolins out there. Get it onto setting where the spikes come up, because we want these in thin strips. As you can see, you've got the little spikes on them. And then you have all your little strands like this. Chuck it into the cold water. And we are literally just gonna rinse this twice over in the water. Give it a mix with your hands to get out as much starch as you can. Do this for about 20 seconds and then repeat. Strain the water, do it another time. And then once you've rinsed them twice, lay them out onto a clean tea towel, a dry tea towel. Pat these dry so you can get as much moisture as you can off them, otherwise they won't fry and crisp up. Then once they're dry, we're gonna fry them. The beautiful thing about shoestring fries is you only need to fry them once before they go beautiful and crisp. So it's as easy as that, no parboiling, no double frying. The steaks have brined, not overnight, because we're filming in the day and I can't do that. But they've been dry brining in the fridge for a few hours, which is perfect. And as you can see, the salt has already started to penetrate that skin. Pad off any excess moisture from your little steaky steak. I'm gonna get my reverse sear one onto the pan. My bavette steaks I'm just gonna leave on the side so they can come to room temperature. Right, so for the reverse sear, this is essentially cooking the meat before we actually sear it. We're gonna cook it at a lower temperature in the oven, so I've got it on about 130 degrees Celsius. Just cooking it for about 20 minutes until it's reached internal temperature of about 46 degrees Celsius or 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm using a thermometer. Honestly, I absolutely love these. If you are a keen home cook, you have to get one of these. It's so good for bigger bits of meat. Just get a tiny bit of oil on it, rub that in, a little bit more salt, and then as simple as that, whack it in the oven. So for the digital thermometer I've got an app which connects to it. This is not an ad, by the way. This is what you'll do. So you go onto the app, meter, and I'm gonna connect to my probe here. You see it's already in, so I'm setting up a cook. I'm cooking some beef. I'm doing a ribeye, and I'm doing it in the oven. Ignore this recommended temperature. We're gonna do it to 46 degrees Celsius. Start cook. And there we go. It will give us roughly the right amount of time it needs to take, and yeah, take us through step by step. It's now been 2.5 hours and our sirloin has sous vide very beautifully. So I'm gonna take this out and then I'm gonna take this out. Now, the beautiful thing about this point is you can let this cool to room temperature and then put it in your fridge, and you can store this for a couple of days. Open the bag with a knife. Be careful not to spill it everywhere. I'm gonna take the steak out. Keep these juices, they are delicious. You can add them into the pan after you've fried it, render them down. That's just steak herby goodness. Now pick off all the herbs that you did in it. Effectively, you could eat this as it is now, but obviously we want a bit of caramelization and color on it. You can see how it's starting to, like, it's so tender, it's like coming apart. Whack it with a little bit more sea salt. Get your frying pan, and then we're gonna heat this up to it's really hot and almost starting to smoke. And I can feel that's getting quite hot now, so I'm gonna go in with some oil. So firstly, I'm just gonna get some of the fat seared and then lay it down. And this is just gonna be literally 30 seconds on each side. Back on with the steak press. This was actually from Tim Haywood. When he released his new book, Steak, he gave me this, and it's such a game changer. If you haven't read the book, go check it out. It's basically a guide on all things steak, and it's very insightful and actually a really good read. Now you should have it, a beautifully medium rare steak. So now this is cooked. I'm not gonna baste it because I don't want to overcook it. You just need a sear. I'm gonna rest this for a few minutes, and then we're gonna cut it and serve. So we've done one steak. Another steak is in the oven, and for the bavette steak, this is gonna be a very quick sear in the pan. We're gonna oil the steak here, just because we need full contact and there's a lot of like texture on the surface of this. So rub them with a lot of oil, a little bit of salt, large frying pan again, heat it up. And then when it's really hot, we are literally gonna sear this for a few seconds, maybe 20 to 30 seconds on each side, because we want it to stay really juicy and tender. So lay this down. And as you can see here, every 10, 15 seconds, I'm flipping it, just so it cooks evenly. There we go. And as simple as that, the bavette steak is done. So it's been about 25 minutes. My ribeye has been in the oven cooking, and look, you can see here it's even got a bit of color already. But we're gonna now quickly sear this in the pan, get a nice bit of color on both sides, and then we'll leave it to rest and cut in. Get your pan to a high heat again, pat your steak dry again, a little bit of oil in the pan. I'm gonna go in with the steak. There we go, flip it again. And now, with this one, if you want to, you can baste it in a bit of butter. So get a large knob of butter, chuck it into the side of the pan, turn the heat of the pan down, and we're gonna take it off. A beautiful steak. We've got our 3 resting steaks. Tip the juices over one of them. And now, whilst those are resting for 10 to 15 minutes, we're gonna cook our fries. Got a big bowl of the dried shoestrings here. And okay, because the surface area is so huge on this, you need to do this in small batches because it will really bubble. So the oil here is at about 170, 180 degrees Celsius, and we're just gonna do them in batches, fry them for 3 minutes until they're golden brown. But these will cook so much quicker than normal fries, and it's so nice only having to do 1 fry to get crispy chips. So you'll notice some of them might go quite dark. That just could be because there's lots of starch left on them, but take them out if you need to. I'm gonna take them out. Give them a good strain, whack them aside, season them with lots of salt. The fries are all cooked. Let's carve open the steaks and serve them with the sauces and eat some of this delicious food. Got my 3 steaks here, and we're now gonna carve into them one by one. First up, the sirloin steak. This one was the sous vide steak, and let's have a look how it turned out. So there we go, you got a perfect medium rare. Next up, we have this beautiful ribeye. Cut around the rib cap, and then cut across section here. And look how amazing that looks. And look, it's just gonna fall apart. Never fails to please with its flavor. It's full of so much good fat. It tastes so good. Now for the bavette steaks. So it's really important with a bavette steak to cut it cross section, otherwise it will end up quite dry and quite chewy. Oh, look at that. Now that's a little bit on the rarer side, but you know what? For the bavette steak, I really wanted that because it's so easy to overcook. I'd rather it be a little bit more tender. So let's plate this up onto a nice slate and have them all together. So first off, we're gonna go on with some of the sirloin. Then we're gonna go in with some of the ribeye. I'm gonna go in with a handful of this bavette steak in this corner. A handful of our shoestring fries. Onto the bavette, I'm gonna be doing my stock sauce. Onto the ribeye, we're gonna be doing some of the peppercorn sauce. And then finally onto the sirloin, some of the chimichurri. A little bit of salt on each. And there you have it, a mighty fine plate of steak free. I've got my 3 different steaks cooked 3 different ways. We've got a chimichurri sauce, we've got a stock sauce, and we've got a peppercorn sauce, and we've got some shoestring fries in the middle, which are really easy to make. If you want to make other fries, link in this video here. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you guys got to try one of these, I would highly recommend doing a reverse sear with a ribeye steak and the peppercorn sauce. That is my personal favorite, but let's be honest, they all taste great. Let's give it a little taste test. So my favorite first off, got the ribeye steak with the peppercorn sauce. That is so melt in your mouth, so rich, really nice and peppery. That is so good. Next up, we got the bavette steak with the stock sauce. So many flavors, you've got the beef stock. And then last but not least, the sirloin, which we sous vide with some of the chimichurri sauce. Oh, that is like butter. Right, there you have it guys. How to make steak free, 3 different ways, 3 different sauces. Honestly, give this a go. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Until next time, let's do some cooking.